Okay, so that gook right there, it was actually dry. The wetness now is just brake fluid. But I did check your rear end, okay, at the plug back there, and that's your new brake hose, by the way, right here. Okay. And it goes over here. Hopefully the camera can see it. Maybe I should put the light on. Yeah. So that was the new lines there that the other guy did, and I put the new hose in, okay? Now, if you look over here, you'll see that it looks like, I hope you can see it. My hand might be blocking it a tad. I'm gonna go around to the other side. All right, before I do that, but this is the fluid. This is a brand new quart, and it's at 20, like you see where the 24 is, it's just slightly less. So just say, I don't know how level it is on the rocks, but say 23 ounces. So that means I added 9 ounces. The whole thing takes about 2 quarts to 2.5 quarts. So it was not really overly low, but it was pretty low. But if you look carefully right here, you see that? That's more evidence of leaking than the axles. So ultimately we got to drive it and then check the brakes after a few uses and see if anything's dripping on the brakes. This is why I kind of didn't want to do the brakes once I saw the gook there, because it was dry. So I don't know if it's like been sitting like this for a while, and what do you call it? It was leaking at one point and then it dried out, or it could have been the old set of what do you call it? It could have been the old set of axle seals that might have been in there. Somebody may have replaced and they just didn't clean the outside. It's very common. So hopefully that's all it is. And what else? I'm going to take it for a test drive. I mean, I don't know if the brakes are going to act up on the first try. If they're going to act up, I really feel it's the hose. This is the hose, and it looks every bit of 300,000 miles, unless somebody put used ones on from other cars. And either way, that's still 41 years old or so. It'd be good. Leaking from the same place. I think I know a problem that you have. You have a venting problem in your tank. It looked like a new gas tank too. Oh my God! Wow! Even though I removed that pressure, unfortunately it fucked up this new fuel pump. Another one. Okay, so return line. Hang on, I need a better light here. Actually, let me turn the light on the phone. Okay, so return line and main line. I blew air through both. This line is the line that goes for the vent, and I cannot blow air through it. Does not. It seems small. Oh, look at this. This is actually not even tight, which I kind of like it that way. And I guess you had air shocks in here. But you see this little guy here? This is some kind of contraption. Emissions contraption. That's where it goes. And then this goes here, which you start to lose it under the tank here. Where are you? Yeah, so I bet you I can join these two together and it'll be fine. I guarantee that this thing has a problem. And it's just something to collect the vapors in and to distribute it and not to be so weird. Definitely looks like an issue there. And again, I blew the main line that's by the fuel pump there when I had it off. I took this off, I blew air here. You can actually hear it gurgling. And then and the cap is off right now on the thing. And when I put air right here, I was kind of holding the line. I'm kind of just pushing it. You can hear it fighting back, but I really need 2 hands in order to really get a better feel for that. But I guarantee once I separate that, I bet you it'll blow right through and it'll be fine. All right, so I took it off here, off of there, that little line. So now I'm going to test this line coming to the back here, and I bet you it's fine. That's the hose I just took off. I'm going to try to get 2 hands on it this time. You probably hear the air come out from underneath the car, and that would be a good sign, rather than the line being rotted and clogged. Oh no! Not a fucking thing. In here it popped. Alright, unless that's not the line, but I bet you it is. Oh boy, always something. Alright, just for shits and giggles, I put this rubber line back on. Where am I? Right here. Hopefully you can see this, bouncing it on my chin, but I hear air. It makes a funny sound, but I can hear the air go in. And then I gather if I do this, and this line definitely looks crappier up here. Yeah, it's blowing right back at me. I bet you if I just leave this off right now, somewhere along this line, it's probably just rusted. That's the hanger for the gas tank, and it goes up. Yeah, and then it's on that side, even though the return line is also on this side. Oh yeah, the return line goes across here and goes to the same spot. So yeah, it's pretty frail, and yeah, it's one of the 2 small lines right there. So I kind of not sure if I should mess with this too much, but it's pretty fucking weak right here even. But then again, it's weak everywhere. So it's looking like it's the main line. I bet you right now, if I start it and run it, it won't have being that line is off. I'll be curious if it has pressure in it, or suction, or vacuum, whatever. All right, so I just started it. I guess it's running about 15 seconds. Maybe let's try a full minute. Just with that line off. It's tight. And it was definitely holding pressure. That gas cap is sealed. And that little thing, what it does is it probably converts the vapor into like a little bit of a liquid, so it goes back, or like I said about the rollover factor. But let's hear this now. Nothing. Perfect. That's really like how you can leave it, the vent, the amount of fuel, there's no fuel coming out of there, it's just like a little bit of vapor. But yeah, you basically need a new line from front to rear. Now, that being said, a lot of this shit is kind of like, I eliminated some of this stuff here, but it's, it's just kind of like here for show. And this guy here was vacuumed to it, so I basically shut it up with a bolt in the vacuum line. So one of these goes to the carburetor. Yeah, it actually goes to the PCV valve. And that's what makes the system like suction pressurized, but it can't suck anymore through here, That's pretty much it. Can't do it, so. Put a new line in. It's like putting in a brake line from front to rear. It's not the best weekend for this, but you're probably not going to have any issue at all. So I'm not even worried about it. One more time, running it a full 5 minutes now. Temperature is in the middle. Shut it off. Nothing. It's amazing how that little fucking thing did all that damage. So this is just the right rear just stops so easily now. And what am I going? 35. If I go a little harder on the brake, it just fucking locks. I mean, it's not even a little harder, but something weird with there, you know, with that over there. Whether the other side, maybe they put the wrong, what do you call it? The wrong wheel cylinder on one side. Like you got maybe some brakes from the station wagon, which had bigger stuff. Like, I mean, I saw the master cylinder was new. Maybe it's the one for the wagon if there's a different listing for it. So I'm gonna try to investigate that. But unless the left rear is just so out of adjustment, because I didn't even play with the adjustment and the drums did slip right off. So it might have something to do with that. I'm gonna try that first. So you're never gonna believe this. Happened again. So I'm dropping a tank. The only thing it could possibly be at this point, because there was no pressure, I took off the gas cap even. I mean, it got fucked up again. I don't believe this. And I drove it yesterday, it really wasn't an issue, but now when I drove it here, boom, gas. And if you actually kind of saw me in that other video, it kind of stalled when I was going around that turn. And I just thought the gas was low. I said, maybe the gas is low. I'm like, I keep forgetting it. There's still this lingering, you know, it's a lingering possibility, but still, it doesn't matter. I got to test drive it to figure this shit out. But at this point, the original, what do you call it, is probably clogged. There's like a sock at the bottom of the tank, and it's probably clogged, and it's causing the pump to really have to pump much harder than it needs to pump. So, more fun. I just didn't make it to the garage door. I better stop just in case it's leaking all over. Even though it's stopping better, it's like all the brakes are going to this. Or, I mean, actually, it's got to be holding up. There's something issue, whether it's expanding or what, because it don't want to move. This doesn't make any sense. All these lines are new. So I'm going to trace something and see what happens. Front ones are not hot. They're kind of normal, the left rear. So I have a feeling either there's something wrong with this guy or something wrong with this guy. But I figured if there was nothing wrong with the other one, it would have stopped. I can't even push it now. The brake is hot. And it's holding up. Crazy. Lots of fun. Took off the lug nuts already, but I just realized it does not go forward, goes back. Does not go forward, but it goes back. I'm just like beginning to be able to force it to go forward, but we'll at least it's not something too serious. Drum slid right off. You know, it's not anything mechanical, because that, you know, like in the drivetrain. But these brakes, they look all fucking old and funky, and they're plenty thick, but they're different than the other side. So I don't know if they just, it still doesn't make sense. They shouldn't be. Drum is hot as hell. There's got to be some issue with these springs. I mean, they don't seem bad. But the other thing I was thinking about, this guy, the towing guy, he pulled the emergency brake like really hard, and it seemed to release. But I wonder if the cable is just hanging up enough that it, like one of these doesn't move, and then only one of them moves, and they only move when it goes backwards. When it goes forwards, lock something up. So I'm gonna have to take off these brakes anyway, and just look at the cable as well, because it's not happening to the other side. It doesn't have extra pressure in it, so in the end, it may have not been the hose. At this point, I don't think it was, but it was still old as dirt, so it was worth changing. But this cable might be a little funky. I gotta figure out where it goes and see if I can pull it to see if it actually has, or see, you can't pull it. You're pulling it tightens it. So I got to take it all off and take a look to see if there's any extra cable. I really can't tell, but unless I take it off. Oh, the other problem is your reverse lights don't work, and I thought about checking that, because while I was messing with this whole contraption of trying to get it running, which I had to pour gas in the carburetor, so I don't know if it officially ran out of gas or that pump just said, fuck it, I'm not pumping anymore. Like, you know, you're supposed to be able to start it in park and neutral. If I go into drive right now, it actually starts up in drive. So somebody either jumped your neutral safety switch, or it's just really bad and it's just working all the time in any gear. All cheap fixes. Is just incredible how many little things I've noticed, but it'll be good in the end. All right, can you see? This is the cable that goes to the other side there. They both come on the driver's side. You see how that's loose? This one is tight. Oh, there's a clip in here. There's no clip in this one. But that, hang on a second. It just makes me feel though there's some other issue here, because it's all like, it's not really, I can't get the cable to move very much, and without opening a can of worms. Basically what I'm saying is, let me show you on the other side. I took off all the brakes. I mean, all this hardware is older than dirt, and these brakes were giving a lot of brake dust. So I mean, if these things were done, they kind of looked like they were done the last time, but like a long time ago. Don't know. I think everything definitely looked newer on the other side. But if you look at this the cable, the spring, you see how it's coiled up like this? If it was not holding right now, it's almost like it's being held. Because with the brakes off, you know, I can understand when everything's set up, it may bunch in a little bit, but for that spring to be bunched up like that and curved, that means it's, you know, it's being pulled. And I can't exactly pull on it back. So when the guy towed the car, he hit it, and that's what created this all. It seemed like it let go, you know, but it's just holding on just enough. And it's so funny the way that works, because the emergency brake really only pulls one shoe. And so if it's stuck now pulling one shoe, even if this is loose, that just means your brakes were out of adjustment. It would have been way worse if your brakes were actually adjusted. I can imagine doing it for you, like, oh yeah, let me adjust the brakes, and then we get, like, I wouldn't be able to have to break the fucking drum off. But ultimately, I guess you can just cut the cable, but we're gonna have to order cables. So I come back to this side, I'm looking, see there's a long shoe and a short shoe, you know, like when you look at the semicircular material here, long and long, they're both the same length. So now I'm thinking, the cable don't look great, but it just didn't seem like it was pulling enough. And the more I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, when have I seen this before where the brake got stuck? When somebody put the shoes on backwards. So if you have that long shoe in the front, I've seen it mess up, because now I'm looking at this. That's the short shoe. Because I'm like, these look thinner, and that's why I said they look completely different. But now I'm realizing that they put two short shoes on one side and two long shoes on the other side. So, I don't know. I mean, I know, they put it on wrong. This is why you're having a problem. That's why this one is like not working and the other one's working way too good. See how these are thicker? And you see how it's, the semicircular material is longer. You have one in the back, and one short one goes in the front. That's why these are probably not even stopping, and the other side is overheating. And actually the material is thicker, so it's taking up more room in the drum there. So cable's an issue, but I don't think it's a pressing issue as long as you don't hit it. But I don't know how fast I can get her if anybody has them locally. I can't see them being cheap locally, but they put the brakes on wrong. Tank is pretty spotless clean. This underneath here is spotless clean. It's missing that, so whether it fell off and either disintegrated or is rolling around there, I can't really tell at the moment. But this is the vent line. I took it off the here. Looks like there's a piece of something still in there. I don't know what. Doesn't look like much. There's a piece of plastic in there. And look, this is a metal line. This is like some kind of protective thing over it. It's metal here, but somewhere along the line. Is that plastic or is it just... Either way, there's rust inside there. Yeah, maybe that's all. It's just rust in there. So like when I had taken this off, yeah, I got no vent. But if I just floor the gas pedal once, this thing is so buttoned up, this whole system, that if this vent line doesn't work, you instantly have that issue. I'm just shocked about the fucking fuel pump. It keeps fucking imploding like that. So everything seems to be okay. This guy is getting cracked over here, but at this point you need as much venting as possible. But I have a feeling it's clogged somewhere in here. I got to get it closer to the garage and get air into this hole and see if there's anything in there. Really bewildered. I'm in bewilderment right now. That guy's a little funny there. These 3 tabs hold on that ring to get it out. But it's still apparent that the vent is not good enough. And I'm definitely not even going to leave that Hooyah thing on there, because that's another problem. But, you know, unfortunately, these are the steps we had to take to get here. I don't know if that's a coating or if it just turns to plastic at some point over here. I got to play with this. I may have to rip this off. It looks... I started to rip it here, and then I realized, I'm like, oh, it's here, actually. You know, it's following this line. So I pulled that down. That looks metal, and this almost looks like I can see through it, but I don't think so. I think it's just some kind of coating. But there's so much heavy shit on here. Oh, unreal. Stupid fucking problem. Stupid. It's nothing. It's nothing hard. It's just stupid. Well, I can't say I trust it. I should have filmed it. It was definitely a lot less. Now it moves. Obviously, whatever shit was in there, I blew in there. But that means this particular thing is getting prone to rust inside there, and that's why it kind of looks like there's. It did before. That there was shit inside there, and there still is. I mean, it's very impossible to get rid of it all. So I think I'm going to add a vent to this, because I'd have to let all the gas out and play with that connection right here in order to do that, because that's like kind of a good spot. However, the fill tube, which is this guy here, this is what I've traditionally done and recently done, is to actually make a hole in this. This is how it, see, this is, it's funny, like this is actually its own vent, but it just comes up into this area here. I'm wondering, I'd have to drill a new hole. So basically, this guy, I got a little bit up. This thing here is getting dry and cracked. Anyway, I think I'm going to make a hole on top and run a line, so it vents from the highest point here and just go right from here out to a spot over here, you know. So because this is ridiculous, you know. That thing is very inferior. It might have been enough back then, you know, but now that it's old, it's, you know, without taking it somewhere and getting it welded. And they don't weld, they used to fix any gas tank for like 30 bucks, like 25 years ago, not anymore. That's why it doesn't even pay for me to start ripping all this shit up and trying to make it work. I can leave this hose out and dangling out, but I think I'm going to add, because there's something wrong here. It'll work out good. I barely, you know, I drilled it a little bit at a time. Most of the metal came out here. I got the magnet, you know, inside here. And I actually picked up a couple of pieces, so that's a good thing. It is what it is at this point. Not much you can do about it. But it's only going to fall straight down, whatever's there. It was just really the bigger step, because I used the step bit. And yeah, I can just keep doing this with the magnet. It's not going to be an issue. But ultimately, it's pretty thick, a gas tank, so it takes well when you make threads in it. And then I get the brass adapter that'll go to flare. I gotta have two hands on this. But it'll go to flare, and then I'll run a line coming out there, and it's a high point on the tank, and it shouldn't be an issue, shouldn't interfere with anything, and all should be good. And it'll be a lot bigger than this. That's way too small, and it's just prone to get rust in there. So you'll still have that one. That one's still going to be open, but adding an extra one will make a big difference. And what else? Yeah, and then I'm going to epoxy it on top of threading it in, so it won't be an issue. Here's something I didn't notice. Ah, damn it, can't really see. Is the light on? Yeah, the light's on. Let's try the sun. I thought I wasn't going to see it in the sun. There's like silicone in there. I really don't know if you can see that. Wow, some quality control. Oh, I returned it. Still, there's some silicone in there. That's what that stuff is back there. It's funny how I can see it, but you can't really see it on camera. Anywho, this seems like twice as heavy, or I don't want to say twice as heavy, but it definitely seems heavier now. So they have the numbers in a different place. This one actually looks like a Carter, whereas the other one, they said that it replaced, you know, the Carter, but it was just odd. Everything about it was just odd. So crazy. Well, let's go see if this is gonna break. But I'm definitely I got some epoxy and some fittings, and I'm gonna put a new vent in the tank. I guess you get tired and you don't do videos. You're like, oh fuck, that's right, I was in the middle of doing a video. Anyway, you see that Nick Cop line? I have it going all the way around. I can't believe I didn't show it. I had a little problem a few times, but you could see there's a piece right there, and then it goes around the tank. So it just clears everything. That was like by eye. I was like expecting the worst in a certain sense. And gee, that's funny. I know the tank was on. Things go in your head and you're like, was it like that? So I was trying to show my epoxy job, but it's hard to see. It's right on top of the tank there, and that's the piece that goes down. We'll get this guy in, and hopefully everything will go all right with that, and this will work, because this is about to drive me crazy. Yeah, that guy I'm just having point up. This is the original rubber line that, you know, went up there, and that'll be all right. I just got the nuts hand tight, got the jack on it. I guess brakes it tomorrow. Yeah, this should work, and that should be plenty of extra vent. So I blew out air into that vent, and definitely got clearer, but I don't even want to take a chance. You know, there's no sense. It obviously, like, if you floor the gas pedal, something, you know, it doesn't give you a full, you know, it's sucking more than it actually goes. So, like, even though I was idling it and idling it and idling it, I never, you know, when I took off the cap, I had no pressure, or suction, I should say. It, you know, it probably gave more suction by hitting the gas more. I mean, I blew out both of these lines. There's nothing in the way. They're old, but this doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. I'm beginning to think, well, it was definitely a problem because there was so much, you know, suction in that tank. So I really feel it's the tank, and I think what I'm doing now is really for the better. All that's going to work out. But if it happened again, then these fuel pumps are garbage, which is a very big possibility. But this pump is definitely different. Everything from this nut over here is 5/8 instead of 9/16, you know, the one that you hold to put it there. But it was heavier. They say that it's a Carter. You know, they say it's made by Carter, but sometimes big companies like Advance Auto, they buy out a whole bunch of stuff, and they just slap it in their boxes, and they just warranty it, you know, because they bought the rights to whatever business they bought out, and they also bought their problems, you know. And this was definitely a problem. I didn't like the way they looked, and even this one has silicone inside it. I was like, that's so weird. So I think I'm just about done with this for today. Just gotta put that up, and I will start it just to make sure all that's working. I gotta put the thing back in. I was originally gonna make a hole into this, but I realized it would have been too gadgety to try to make all that work. So, all right, tomorrow's another day. So I just got the license plate frame out and back in to put the thing on. I go underneath here. I was gonna just touch on these nuts, and then I'm looking, and I'm like, oh my God, you've got to be kidding me. This tank was ready to break? Didn't seem like it. It seemed in such good shape. I don't understand it. I see this thing is fucking rotted. This is just the cover for the fucking tank. Actually, now I look at it, it's like, gee, this is more likely to make it rust. Oh, you can't touch anything on the car anymore. Everything fucking breaks. Exactly what I said. Those fucking panels, I didn't even notice it. I really didn't. I tightened it up, and there's a pinhole here. And more than a pinhole, it's pretty rotted right here. Oh my God. Oh boy. So now that I cleaned up the rust, that's how it looks. Isn't that wonderful? Well, needless to say, this is not looking reliable. It stopped leaking for about 30 seconds, and I was holding it so it could dry. It was getting hot with the chemical reaction, and I bet you it would seal it, sort of, if there wasn't gas pouring on the... I gotta take it out again for sure. But it's... it ended up... I can see light through. After pushing and pushing. Because it was leaking a lot, and I kept moving my hands to try to get it to seal. It's like rubber now. There's epoxy that you could put over the fucking gas leaking. Oh my God, this is not what I wanted to do today. All day long modifying the fucking tank, and it's looking like a new tank now. So, I drained out a couple of gallons, I guess. And I put this double high, so I'll let it drain overnight into this guy. So, that should work. Oh boy. This really sucks. How does somebody get this bad of luck with one particular car? Every single thing. At least my contraption worked. Only a little bit of gas went in there though. But alright. Tank is coming. Today is going to be the brakes. I'm just going to redo everything because there's a whole bunch of, you know, what ifs, and, you know, obviously the parts were put on wrong. I had the drums cut, so at least that'll get done. Then I'll just be waiting on the tank, and then this car should be done. So I just cleaned off the other side, and it was all rusty, like a lot of surface rust. And you can see rust here, but I'm largely taking off brake dust because it was like stuck on and not really working in the end. And then I changed the brake hose, and then it started locking this wheel up. So this is all getting cleaned off, and then we'll get to the yeah, this is just all because of the same, you know, 2 long shoes on one side and 2 short shoes on the other side. Unreal. Well, a lot to do. Got everything for the brakes though. No way they'll be done right. All set up with the brakes. Drums are cut. And started taking the brakes out of the box. Sorry for the mess. Never seen this before. Manufactured all the way at the bottom. Ray Bestis. Paid more money for these too. Wow. I mean, it might have been actually the cheapest that they had on Rock Auto. It actually goes to a local warehouse, the address, and I'm going to try to just show up over there and see what they say. I might even stop by their sister store that's local to me here and see what they say, if they let me get away with this. So that was completely fruitless. So it's basically a big warehouse, and they only accept returns there, but they can't process my return. I go across the street to a regular store and they don't want to process it either. I can probably buy it from them, which would have been fine, but it ends up being it's double the money. So this is what you get with Rock Auto sometimes, but that was a manufacturing defect. Unfortunately, it wasn't their fault. So I got out the tank in like 30 seconds once you already have it out, you know, but this is the whole contraption I made. I epoxied it all in. I had this all set up here. And the new one obviously has it's made of like this material, the line that comes out, according to the picture online. I didn't actually open it up, but I actually put the old line on this, but I'm going to put a new line, so it could be hooked up in the future, but it's not necessary. But in the end, like I said, this guy was rusty. I blew it out. It kind of blew out. That was in the other videos, and this is all rusted anyway, but actually there's still some gas in here because the angle that it was on. And oh, thank God. Your sending unit works. It'll come with a new comes with a new thing, and I'm not gonna modify your new tank. I have a feeling it's gonna be fine. Oh, the other thing I realized, okay, and this guy is just, this does not look like a vented cap. So I'm wondering if this is just something that somebody put in. This is made in USA, but it usually says vented on it. So I have bought a new cap as well. So between that, the tank being restricted because of rust, and the fact that this isn't vented, it may not go. I mean, maybe that little hole is a vent, but it's not looking like there's a open hole here. I don't know if it kind of bleeds through that little thing right there, but the one that I ordered definitely says vented. But just because this is vented doesn't mean that it's working. That's the other thing, because it did not seem vented to me, because that day that I showed the tremendous pressure that was in it when the gas when the fuel pump was squirting out like crazy, it was obviously holding pressure, because it was like it's actually holding suction. So if it's holding suction, it's supposed to suck the air in through here. So it was not able to be done. So this is a good thing that I'm getting rid of this too. So that could have been actually part of the problem, because it just seems so much smaller than most tanks, but in the end, I don't know. I wish they just made it bigger than stock, like I did here, but it was a cool trick I did there, but a whole bunch of wasted time. I should have just got a new tank. Should have just got a new tank to begin with. So, oh well. So, new tank, made in Canada. That's a big thing when it comes to metal. And you can see this is a nickel copper line that comes out of here, where this is steel. This thing has this padding on it, but you see what it does? It keeps water underneath. Look at that. So it's less likely to rot out from the top, and it doesn't seem like it's compromised, but I'm just putting it in the way it is. And the rubber seal, although I saw a little crack here or there, it's largely in good shape. I really had to bend the hell out of it to get it in, and it's very, very nice looking, so I don't think that's going to be a problem. This is the new seal and new thing, because this guy was a little compromised, this was a little compromised, so in the end, this is the right thing to do. That being said, this is the gas cap. Now it says, fuel may spray, cause injury, remove slowly, warning. But when you look on the back, so it doesn't say vented on it, but there's 5 holes there. This is definitely vented, and I believe that the way these things work, because I've done this already with my diesel cars, I blew air into the line and it was holding pressure, and then after it reaches a certain pressure, poof, it lets it go. Poof, it lets it go. But yours had so much pressure, there was no reason for it to have that much. So I don't know if it was just a problem or what. Oh, I can breathe in. I can breathe in. I can't. So it's like a check valve. Now Not that I'd like to put my lips on your old gas cap. What the fuck is it? Oh, it's on the car here. It's sad. I can breathe in. So, that's wild. So, it doesn't appear to be bad, but you know what? I like 5 holes instead of 1 hole. I mean, it may end up going to 5 holes. I mean, to 1 hole, but I actually can breathe it in here. So, it's about the same. I really feel the stat line. I think just by air blowing it, I was fine with it. But this is never going to get rust in it when you see this material. This is steel. They put this coating on it. The coating can start coming off. And once it starts to rust on the inside, it just gets clogged. So it's really wild too. But it also had that little, it kind of looks like a motor almost, you know. But I'm not hooking that up because that can be compromised as well. It just wasn't worth dealing with it. And I would have totally used this tank because largely it looked kind of okay. But, you know, the rust that was coming out from the bottom, I don't want to leak, like I said, drop of gas in it. But that, I'm not going to put that steel plate in that supposedly protected the tank. This thing here that goes across, it obviously rotted the fucking tank. What a travesty, I should say, more than anything else. It's one thing if it's not venting, but it's largely in pretty good shape. And to sit there and take it all out again and epoxy it, I've already spent all this money on this tank, but whatever, it's a wash. But when it leaks like that on the bottom, it's one thing if it's halfway up or something. You know, if everything I do ends up failing because it just can't be fixed for whatever reason, or like as soon as you get gas on it for like 24 hours and it starts leaking, it becomes not worth it at that point. And if you're going to keep it, you know, in the end, it's a selling point to the car if you're going to sell it, and if you're going to keep it, you know, if this thing was rotted and I fixed it and it was good for, you know, 6 months or a year, you're just going to have to change the tank again. And I was very lucky. I got this tank dirt cheap on Rock Auto. And the shipping was only $12.99 when all the other manufacturers are shipping tanks now for like almost $40. So it was totally worth it in my opinion. So nip it in the butt. And if you blow another fuel pump, the fuel pump is actually, all these fuel pumps are junk. But this particular fuel pump is actually much better than the other one. And a lot of times these big companies, they buy out the smaller companies that are cheap and they just put their label on it, and they all end up being cheap until they run out of them. So after the 3rd store, I got a decent pump. At least it looks decent. But I'm almost thinking if I still have your old one, I'll leave it in your trunk. Never a dull moment. Yeah, something happened during shipping. This is the original seal. It's a round seal, and this is a square cut seal. So I was trying to put the new seal in. Not 100% sure, but I went to go put it on. I'm like, why am I fighting it so much? And totally fucking warped. So, in my experience, I've actually put on the original one, and they sometimes fit better with the original seal rather than the aftermarket one for some reason. So, and this really wasn't the problem. It was more of the tank here was, the edges were fucked up. So, I'm probably just going to use this. I don't feel right hammering this flat, because it's probably not going to be right no matter what I do. So I'll just see how both seals fit with the old one and see what happens. And I'll try to email Rock Auto and say this thing was damaged. Yeah, so I got this sealed up. This is a 1/4 inch line, so it's a bigger line with a clamp on it. There's a lot less to bolt on here, as you can see. This is before, this is like, the strap comes from the bottom here. This is not really in the way, but they put it in the path of this pretty much, and I only have room for one. It didn't even have this little, I call it the head of the dick on it, to put on the hose so it stays on. But ultimately this is not going anywhere, at least for now. But it's such a small little fucking vent. I really don't like it, nonetheless. You know, I'm just thinking that it's new, so it should be okay. But I almost wonder if, you know, somebody eliminated the whole emission system off this car for the most part. And I'm wondering if the air pump actually pumped air into here for some reason, you know. I don't know. I don't think so. But that's so weird. It just, I'm like, wow, I can't, not a lot of air blowing through there, to be 100% honest. So it just seems crazy that it's like this. I sure as hell hope this doesn't have a problem, because there's a, you know, whether they're making the fuel pumps not so great, but it's based on, you know, a certain parameter, and then they're, you know, it's just, there's something wrong here with this whole system then, you know. Or like I said, there's some kind of air pumping into it to keep it pressurized to some degree. But it's awfully silly to be so small. You know, I kind of really like what I did. I would never hack up a new tank though, you know. I think now, like, God forbid, if this was still an issue, I would just be making another hole here, you know, at this point. Or either that or try to eliminate the return line. Because it's probably not terribly important, you know. But, yeesh, you know. But, you know, I would have loved to have used what I had here if I didn't, if I'd only known it was so rotted, you know. It's rotted bad. It's rotted on this side too. I didn't even get to trying to clean off the rust there, but all these pinholes, it's not looking good for that. It's very, very thin, and there was at least like a dozen pinholes in that. And you know, if you get it fixed at a place, it can cost, you know, minimum. They charge minimum $100 now to do anything to a tank, you know. So it doesn't look bad, the tank, but this is original, this tank. So it's literally 40 years old. So 41. It needs to be done in a certain sense, but I think it's just the inherited design. I really don't care for it. It's really crazy how that works, but I really hope that it's not an issue anymore. But I'm gonna roll with it for now, and hopefully it does what it needs to do, you know. Because I'm not liking it, to be honest, you know. I'm really not liking the small-sized vent. But it obviously was not a problem for a while, so I really can't sit here and blame all these fuel pumps, though. But, you know, all bets are off with the Chinese aftermarket. You know, you don't know. So hopefully it all works out. But basically, I gotta, like, even though I solved it right away by just disconnecting the other line off that thing, having it disconnected from here could make a big difference. You know, ultimately, if I just took off this hose instead of, I took it off the other thing, so the other piece was still in, it totally changed. It totally didn't have a, you know, clog, you know, didn't have the vacuum backup. But if I'm driving the car and I floor it, it might suck more than it's able to compensate for. So that's why now I'm going to totally leave it off. I figured one way or the other would have been fine. But if I was going to pull the tank out anyway, to clean that line out, that's why I just assumed to have done this, because I think this would really be a good thing, you know. But again, it's not something you want to do to a new tank, you know. You don't want it to give it a reason to rust in a new place or anything like that. It has a coating on it. It's made in Canada. That makes a big difference, because they actually treat their metal differently because of the cold. So I trust that it's a quality tank. Obviously, they're only going by what the manufacturer had done with this little tiny line here, you know. So hopefully it's enough. And you know, I keep thinking I want to put a hole in here. Just thinking different things. Not 100% sure yet what I want to do, but I guess I shouldn't mess with it if it's not going to be a problem. But, you know, there's always the factor of what do you call it? The how many fuel pumps can I buy locally? You know. So hopefully this works. I don't sound very confident, do I? Always nice to make a mess. This is for the neutral safety switch. It's like impossible to really access to just swap it real quick, so losing tranny fluid, so I'll have to replace it. This is the old switch. Definitely looks original. This is the new switch. It's in Mexico. Should be a gasket in there, yeah. So, two things are happening here, and I don't know why it's like this. Anyhow, so I did all the testing. The wiring is good, and the reverse light started working when I unplugged that. When I plugged it from the solenoid. Now the solenoid is new, so it never fails. Anyway, so this part of this works. See, it's funny. You got a GM ignition switch. You got a Ford starter, solenoid, Ford starter, and a neutral safety switch of a Chrysler. So the way. Whoops, that was touching negative. That's not good. Anyway, so down here, this little guy here is supposed to get ground, and we'll find out if it actually works when I put in a new switch. Anyway, down here, right now I have the test light hooked up. The switch is hooked up to test light's hooked up to positive, so I'm testing for ground, and it's always grounded. It's always on. So in order for this switch to work, basically it gets a ground signal only in neutral and in park from the Chrysler transmission, and that's what makes this actually work. Okay, so you got power going on here, but it's always working, so it's internally grounded. So I don't know if this particular solenoid was meant to be mounted on rubber. That is a possibility, but it's not like that with this one. So this is the original one, which I don't know how I saved it, but I did. So basically this, right now what I'm doing here is I'm symbolizing cranking the engine with the key. So you got power on. So it still is not turning on. You ground it. Nah. So you ground it with the body. Still not going on. This is where that little wire goes in the blue. That's a little light blue wire that goes to the neutral safety switch. So watch. I don't have ground all the time, even though it's touching here. Okay, see, that's grounded because it's turning on. Okay, so that's grounded, but when I jump it, and of course, hang on, this is probably not a good connection. Urgh. It's funny because this wire just touched a ground and it was starting to fry. God damn it. Am I on the wrong one? Is that what it is? I'm on the wrong one. Aha. Okay. So, it's grounded. It's not turning on. So this is, you know, resembling turning the key on. Now watch. I can't win for losing. Actually, no. This is the one. Yeah, it's mounted like that. That's the one. Okay. So, now we got to go like this because maybe I fried my little wire because these are cheap wires. Yep. Tried it. Ay, 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 ay. And now I dropped the test light. Okay, Murphy's Law. Everything goes wrong at once. Okay, let me get a new ground wire. Last thing I said in that video was ground wire. I knew as soon as I shut it off, but positive wire. But basically, that one is junk. It just, as I was making this video, it touched the ground and it was sparking. So it basically fried it. These are great little guys, but they're, you know, like the size of a human hair. Anyway, so we see I have the test light on positive, so that's testing that. That's grounded. When I ground it, look. The old one was still good, but we changed the starter, we changed other things, so I was like, let's change a new one. But this one's internally grounded. So I don't know if it's grounded because it's mounted and it was supposed to be mounted on rubber. They just got something wrong. I heard it could be for manual transmission because it's always grounded then. But it may not be. It may just be that that wire goes to the clutch switch or something like that. If there is a clutch switch in these years. Pretty disturbing. Getting tired of this shit. This car hates me. So here's the problem, is that when I put the new switch in, we'll find out that's grounded when I put it in park and neutral. Therefore, the circuit should work like it was designed. But my only issue right now is that it was starting before. So makes me feel like this new solenoid like shorted to ground when it shouldn't have been, and that's why like something was weird, because for a moment there the reverse lights weren't working, but now they do. The only other thing I can think of is that it's like some kind of internal problem with the ground, because I think this car didn't start sometimes, so it could be based on that, that there's an issue with that switch or the internal grounding in the transmission, because basically, you know, it's relying on the ground. You know, the engine is bolted to the transmission is bolted to the engine, which is grounded, and it just goes through the whole shifter linkage, and there's a little contact piece, and sometimes that contact piece gets dirty and it doesn't make a good contact. So right now, that's the old switch could have been actually good. It just sometimes it was coming on, sometimes it wasn't, or it was bad and it was coming on, and sometimes it wasn't. But I'll know because I'll instantly have a ground when I put in the new switch if everything is good inside the transmission. I've seen that happen, but usually what happens is that it has ground in park, but it also has ground in neutral, or only has one or the other. Usually it loses it in park because it's gone into park so many times, it's worn out the contact, but it usually works in neutral. So it was starting in every gear, by the way, so mainly because this thing here was internally grounded. So every time you turn the key, it would go. See, the ignition switch always sends a signal no matter what gear you're in, you know? Whereas, even though it's like a GM switch and a GM key, the GM columns just physically will not allow you. Like, this looks exactly like a GM column, but there's something in the column that when you put it in reverse, see, like it's disconnected, but it's like there's something physically that you can't turn the key with. There's a stop in here that allows you to not start it in reverse and neutral, which would have been good enough for this car, because like I said, GMs don't really have a neutral safety switch, but they put it in this car. It's a Ford steering wheel and a GM column with a Chrysler transmission, obviously with some other gearing mechanism inside here that allows it to be started in every gear, probably because these cars came with stick shift, so that's why they offer it. They offer it like that. So unless there's the thing is, that wire is not grounded. It's really in the solenoid, because this one is not doing it. So it's very possible there was an intermittent problem with the original setup here, and that's why it wasn't starting. But there really isn't a problem with this. We just changed it because, you know, it looks old, but it was working. That one's working, but it's not working as it's designed. It's supposed to not start if you don't have this wire in, and it's forever grounded in here, and it's obviously grounding through the whole system. So there's some issue with that. So so obviously it was sending a ground down to the other side. So all right, that's where I'm at. A quick video before I put it in. New one, spring loaded. Old one, not spring loaded anymore. I may not even. Yeah, now you see I just came out a little bit, so it lost its oomph. So it really depends on what position that it's in, and that's why it was kind of working and then not working sometimes, or it worked most of the times, but then all of a sudden I think she had a problem with it not starting. So boom, that's definitely it. See, not sticking out. That's it. So I have a feeling that's the reason why we were just saying, let's just change the solenoid, because, you know, it looks like a Ford solenoid, but it actually works like a Chrysler because it needs that extra ground. It just the new one we bought, like a lot of aftermarket parts, for some reason don't work the way you know they're supposed to work. So starting in every gear was really a problem, because when I was actually having it died on me the other day, it actually, you know, I poured gas in the carburetor, and when it started, I had it actually in drive, and it just like peeled off the tire, and I was like, oh shit, what happened? So definitely narrowing it all down. Okay, so key on, we're testing the neutral safety switch. We put it in reverse. That should still work. Yes, reverse lights are on. So now, in fact, I'm going to leave it in reverse because when I put this guy in here, this is not on because you wouldn't want your car to start in reverse, right? So the circuit is hooked up. Let me see if I can see the test light from here. Okay. That's park. And it looks like it did come on. It's off. On. Now, I really can't see it on the phone. I'm going to zoom in. Only so much I can do from here. Right. Okay. Neutral. I gotta reposition it. I can see it, but it doesn't look like I can see it on camera. Well, I mean, now you see it. Where I was got nothing before. I'm gonna try to stand it up. So it can be seen better in the video. Come on. Ain't nothing easy. Okay, so hopefully that I can see that. AC. All right, that's park. Reverse, neutral, drive. Boom, works the way it's supposed to work. Okay, I'm happy because I got nothing out of it. I don't really think the switch was shorted because of it. I can't really say. I mean, I don't know why it would be shorted if it is only going to have a ground in it all the time. You know, I don't see how that would manifest into it. I just think that this thing was done wrong, and I just think that sometimes that switch worked and sometimes it didn't. And just for the purposes of testing, of course, it did not work. And you know, it definitely showed it with this. There's no reason for this to go in other than wear and tear, you know. So I'm happy about that. And I guess I got to put the old one back in. I really would love to put a new one in, so I might have to buy it locally. But this was a weird one because of the way it's set up. So I might have to just say F it and put the old one back in. Don't want it to start in every gear, you know. Alright, I only have I don't know, I thought I put more than a couple of gallons in. This thing here had about, oh my god, that's nice. How the fuck does this happen to me? So, this is the second time a car fell like this. I did jack it up, so I disturbed it. So, thank God I didn't dent the tank. I was looking, I was like, oh boy, that would be wonderful. I don't know, I got a black cloud following me. Thank God I put the tires under the car. But it can't be that good for them. I'm gonna jack it up now. So that was amazing that I caught that on camera. Last time I dented this, just barely grazed it with my 82 Buick LeSabre, and then I couldn't close the door. But that car was a running car, so I couldn't close the garage door because it was. Oh no, I thought it was the time I could. There was something else. That was another thing I did one time. I was like, oh no, I'm real close, but I think I made it. Boy. Yeah, safety's not really first, you know. But basically, I had it up like this the whole time. It was fine, and I even shook it, and it moved a bit. But I pretty much realize when things are safe. The body of the car came right across the white wall. I feel bad. Hopefully, it'll clean up. But I had the jack under here, so I must have jacked it up just enough that it got dislodged and moved. And when I lowered it back down, it didn't go back down on the jack stand. Oh boy. Never a dull moment. Never. Can't seem to get a break. Yeah, this was the piece that rotted out the fuel tank. So I opted not to put it back in, even though it probably wouldn't be an issue. Maybe it could be saved. But it's not like the straps in the tank itself can't withstand the weight. I know this transfers the weight and doesn't have the tank straps dig in, but it really doesn't, you know. So it could be cleaned up and then, like, you know, painted, something like that. We'll see. Maybe another day. Don't want to start rotting a brand new tank. That's basically. It's crazy how all this works out. Anywho, so let's see if I can find another solenoid, and then if I can't, I'm going to put the old one back in. And I don't know if there's enough. Sometimes you can't return things after 30 days with Rock Auto, but I didn't realize it was an issue because the car started, because I wasn't expecting it to start in reverse. So that'll be the first step, and then when I get the brakes on Friday, this car will be ready to go by Monday. Well, by Friday too, but oh, what an array of events, I tell you. I was just thinking, I was actually sitting in the car because I was looking at the gas gauge, and you can see now I put an extra gallon what I had left in the tank, and it's just a little bit above E, so that's good. 3 gallons pretty much to be slightly over E like that, so you know that you can run it really low, at least when it comes down to that. So that's a good thing. Probably not going to run it too much for that reason, among other reasons, obviously vibration and shit from the car. I just want to get these brakes in and get this car done, and the solenoid. So yeah, that's about it, at least for now. I'll have another video for the rest of the brakes probably. As you can see, they got those gold nuts there. This was a coarse thread, and the nuts that came with it is what I'm used to on these type of things, is a fine thread. So, oh no, maybe I just thought it didn't come with it, and I didn't see it under the instructions that time? That's weird. Oh, there's a little baggie in here. Maybe it was the wrong bag. Maybe it had 2 sets and I didn't even look at it, because yeah, these actually look like they're coarse thread. Oh, that's interesting. Well, I definitely tested it. And if you, like, I have the battery completely disconnected, and if you touch the ground, okay, so basically if I put the ground here, I have it on the ground, clip on the negative, that's not supposed to be, because then I would have no need to ground it then. That's only supposed to ground when you put it in park and neutral. So, defective. And it's not a bad brand. This is the same brand that AutoZone sells, and AutoZone sells it for, like, even though it's their own brand in the box, supposedly it's inside there. So, but this is one of the Chinese-made ones. As things change, things will be made in the USA, but this has got to be sent back for sure. Oh well. Video test light hooked up to the positive. Touch the negative. See how it goes on. This is negative. Does not go on. That is made correctly. Okay, put the solenoid in, the new one. Oh wait, I didn't hook up the little wire. That was hilarious. Boom. Put it in reverse, should not start. Boom. Neutral should start. Great. And drive. That's funny. Oh, just a little extra gas. Alrighty. And that's it. Now we got to do the brakes. Okay, I just restarted it. was loose, but it's not. But I wanted to bend it right, and it's kind of a lot of bends over here. But the original line, you really can't tell. Sometimes it sticks out like really obvious, and other times it does not. But you see the black line going around. It looks like it must be the equivalent of being rotted right there, just ever so, slightly. And I think now I remember there was Teflon tape on these threads on the old one. And that's what people do to try to make up for something like that. But you're not supposed to put Teflon tape in it because then you can get it in the carburetor. But that being said, the nut is only supposed to be tightened to push this tapered fitting, this tapered flare up against its socket, So that's how it goes. It's supposed to only be like that. If you put Teflon tape, it actually gets further away, and then the Teflon tape is the only thing that's holding the gas back, which is not a good thing in retrospect. Good now though, and it looks good too. I bent it a little different than the original. Let's see what happens when I go for a ride.